home. Oh, children, home. Wanna go home.
Good evening, Dominica, the Caribbean, and the rest of the world. Good evening to you. It is always great to be back with you, back on your radio for another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. Wherever you're joining us from, a very special welcome to you as we get ready for our number one program for navigating how, despite the challenges, we can position Dominica and our people to reap the benefits of this ever changing world. Because, as you know, in today's world, the only constant is change. If this is your first time joining us, this is our program for exploring what are our concerns as we look at what in the world around us is changing and evolving. What are some new approaches we should consider adopting in various aspects of our lives? What are the challenges and the opportunities, especially financial opportunities, which come with these changes? We all know that change can be very scary, but we must not overlook the benefits, the opportunities that these changes bring with them. So we are always grateful for our Dominican experts at home and abroad who stop by, take time out of their busy schedules to join us, to help us to navigate these changes. And we thank you for joining us every second and fourth Wednesday as we continue to journey along. As always, we continue to pray for our country, Dominica, and all the challenges we continue to face. Don't forget, Sunday is Mother's Day. So if you are a mother or you serve the role of a mother to anyone, let me be the first to wish you a very happy Mother's Day. We especially continue to pray for the protection of our most vulnerable in our society. Little Miss Kanisha Etienne is still missing since June of 2022. We keep her in our thoughts and our prayers, as well as other vulnerable women in Dominica, such as Miss Velma Valmore and Miss Avenel Charles. So again, welcome to Roots Connections on Q. This is episode number 47 for today, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, May 10th, 2023, and I am your host, Simone Mathieu. We have another packed and timely program for you as we look at the knowledge industries and the threats and the opportunities that these industries present to us in Dominica and the rest of the world. So our panel is here. They're all set and ready to go. And we thank them again for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here. So this evening, we have with us Mr. Anthony Drigo and Mr. Sam George. So let us invite them to unmute their mics and to say good evening. Tell us a little bit about them, what they do, where in Dominica they're from, and just some introductory remarks. So let's begin with Anthony. We will take you first.
Good evening, Simone, Dr. Matthew. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. Good evening, the audience on Q95, both listeners and viewers. It's a pleasure, it's a delight to be with you tonight. I hail from Castle Bruce, no other place but Castle Bruce. You know, that's the genesis of where the Drigos come from. All the Drigos have their roots from Castle Bruce. Left Castle Bruce to go to grammar school. I attended the grammar school. Started in the 70s. I started grammar school in 78. Stayed there until 83, 84. Went to the sixth form college, which is now the State College. And then I worked for a little bit. I believe it or not, I taught at the Convent High School in 1986. I also worked as an environmental health officer in Castle Bruce, and then I went to the US to study. Got a degree in mechanical engineering, and then came back to Dominica in the 90s. So that's a little bit of my background. I currently live in the US. Another thing that I do is that I host a program on TDN Radio, TDN TV, called This Week in Interview. It's the other program that's on a Wednesday night. It's every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And on that program, we do similar, except we we interview personalities, but we also talk about contemporary situations. We bring it from a different angle than what you would find just by browsing the internet or doing it remotely. And so I want to say a very special welcome to my viewers and listeners who are now listening to Roots Connection, because we are doing a simulcast um, on TDN TV, TDN radio, and our various other medias like YouTube and so on. I want to say a very special welcome to our fans on Dominica who listen to us on DigiPlay channel 59 through our affiliate radio station called RVR Jams. So they listen to us on there. And of course, there is Radio SBE online in Toronto, who also carry This Week in Interview Live. So in a nutshell, that's me. It's a pleasure to be here speaking about the topic. When we come back and really start discussing the topic, I'll give you a little more information about myself in terms of what I do and in terms of technology. But for now, I just want to say good night to your viewers and listeners. I see Lambi in the background. Good night, Lambi. Good to see you. And I'll pass back the mic and say it's a pleasure being here.
Yes, thank you. I'm Anthony. And, on this program, Roots Connections, we talk a lot about collaboration, the importance of bringing that synergy together, which is what it will take to advance our Dominicans at home and abroad, our lovely nature island and the Caribbean region in general. So I'm happy to see that this is yet another opportunity of how we're practicing what we're preaching, because we're doing the simulcast with Q95, Push Past 10, as well as TDN Radio. So good evening to your guests as well, joining on This Week in Interview. Sam, let me come over to you for your introduction.
Yes, good evening to you, Simone, first of all, and good evening to your listeners on Q95 and your viewers on the Q95 page. And of course, good evening to the This Week in Interview family, the TDN crew across, the globe, wherever you're tuned in from. Well, my name is Sam George. I hail originally from Grand Fort. As they say, the wise men came from the east. So there you have it. I live in the US now, and I work with Anthony, my brother here. So as we get into the conversation, we'll talk a little bit more, as Anthony said, about what it is we do, and I guess how we came to be having this conversation.
Yes. So thank you again, Anthony Drigo, Sam George, for joining us for this conversation on the knowledge industries and the threats and the opportunities. We look forward to your contribution. And of course, we look forward to the contribution of the viewers and the callers who will call in later in the program. We are live on Facebook and YouTube at Q95 FM Radio. And we are also live on Facebook at pushpast10.com. So if you want to make a contribution there, we will be more than happy to welcome your contribution. And even before we get started this evening, I'm someone who believes in giving our people their flowers while they're alive. So I just want to mention this evening that the person who started my broadcasting career is with us this evening. So Mr. Sam George, I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for being the first person to ever realize my potential and to say, hey, you want to do a radio show? And you remember how I freaked out? But I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for offering me Untapped Potential, which was my very first radio show, and it's still going strong even today. And to just thank you for seeing the potential and giving me the opportunity to be in broadcasting. And I also must mention before we get started this evening that May 12th, which is, I believe, Thursday, or is it Friday? May 12th is the anniversary of Roots Connections on Q95. So we're celebrating our second anniversary of Roots Connections on Q95. And you will want to stay tuned until the end of the program because I want to talk to you about all the things we have accomplished in those 2 years. Because you will remember that when we started this program, and I say it all the time, we have to continue those conversations and demand change and vent the things that bother us as Dominicans. But I also like to think that the third part of that equation is the actions that we must take to move our people and our country forward. So I'm very happy in terms of the things we have been able to accomplish, thanks to you, thanks to our guests, our audience, our Facebook Live viewers, our YouTube viewers. So you will want to stay tuned until the end of the program so we can talk about everything that we have accomplished. And there is so much more to come. So, of course, if you're joining us on Facebook and YouTube, don't forget to share the live. Don't forget to share the live. Let everyone know that we are here. Don't forget, for the best in daily programming, to log on to q95da.com for all our live programs, as well as the past episodes. The last episodes of Q Reflections on Q is now playing. And if you recall, we looked at from song lyrics to the clothes they wear. How can we empower our girls to see their true value? And you also don't want to miss Global View from last night. Mr. G, Gabriel Christian, and Mr. Robinson had a very interesting program last night. So that is also playing on q95da.com. So you'll want to check it out. So we remain grateful to Mr. G and the Q95 family for the opportunity to come here to tap in to the human resources of our Dominican brothers and sisters, our Dominican experts, as we work to reverse the brain drain which has been plaguing Dominica and the rest of the Caribbean. We also want to say thank you to Lambi on the console, who will be taking your calls later in the evening, showing Norris, our engineer, as well as DJ Shan. So as we continue with our theme this year of Invest in Me, Invest in Us, creating strategic action plans, this evening again, we're looking at the knowledge industry, threats and opportunities. So here's a question I have for you as we get started. Have you ever had this experience? You're on your laptop, you're Googling something, maybe for work, maybe something for, personally for yourself. And then you grab your cell phone, you log into Facebook, and what pops up? An ad for exactly what you were just looking for on your laptop. So that is essentially what we are talking about this evening: AI, technology, and the internet. And I have to tell you, I was even surprised because just yesterday, Paul and I were having a conversation, and he was talking about the need to expedite the renewal of his passport. Keep in mind, I did not have my phone open. I did not have my laptop open. We were simply having a verbal conversation. Then I logged into Facebook on my phone, and there's an ad for expediting your passport. So I think that this whole technology and AI, it is getting to levels that not even we can anticipate. So this is a conversation that we need to have, because my concern is we're always so much afraid of change, but the change is still going on around us, whether we like it or not. So Anthony and Sam, I thought we could begin this evening by looking at just some definitions. What is the knowledge industry? What is artificial intelligence? Because I always get the sense that we hear some of these words and we just be like an ostrich and bury our head and say, you know what, I don't want to look at this because it's too scary. But just give us some definitions as we get started on the program this evening.
All right. Thanks for that. Thanks again. And the knowledge industry. So the knowledge industries are the industries that are based on intensive use of technology and human capital. And you might say, well, in almost any industry, you need knowledge as an input. So what would differentiate an industry and make it part of knowledge industry? but it's where that industry is particularly dependent on the knowledge and technology to generate income and revenue. So for example, uh, Dominica used to be a banana producing country. Yes, you have knowledge of the extension officers that would come out and help the farmers and so on. But generally, the production was the same. You plant bananas, you learn a little bit about husbandry and taking care of it. You harvest your bananas, you sell it. Uh, where how would that become a knowledge industry? If, for example, we were to now say, let us apply technology. So a farmer has an irrigation system, so he doesn't have to depend on rain for to irrigate his bananas, and that irrigation system is connected to his computer that will sense the moisture level in the soil and turn on the sprinklers or the irrigation system when it needs to. It can take parameters from the soil and inject the appropriate mix of nitrogen, phosphorus, and what other minerals that the soil is missing. The technology can keep track of these bananas when the particular banana started to bunch and inform him as to when he needs to harvest that banana. So, so the differentiation between that, we still will be talking about the production of bananas, but now there's a heavy and intensive infusion of technology and knowledge to enhance the revenue generation. So that's a simple example of the knowledge technologies. Other examples of knowledge industry is, for example, education. We had a Ross University in Dominica, and let's imagine that Ross was still there. A lecturer could easily sit in the US and deliver a lecture, and the students in Dominica sit in the classroom in Dominica just as if the professor was live. Consulting businesses. I work in construction. I'm a construction manager. I have managed construction projects in Grenada, in Dominica, at my home in New York. You get updates, you manage schedules, you get reports, and that sort of thing. Science, obviously. Insurance. Nowadays, I used to work at DCP when Colgate Palmolive owned DCP. And when we had new plants, every so often they would have to send underwriters down to Dominica to physically inspect the plants so they could keep the insurance updated. Now you could easily see that could be done by a drone to fly over the building, fly over the compound, eyes on it directly. I guess you get the sense of what I'm talking about. Health services, the telemedicine, and of course communication. Those are examples of the knowledge industry, and that's just by way of introduction. But it is what we are. I want to say we're in the middle of it, but it's also at the genesis of it. The world as we know it is going to be changed as more and more industries get converted into the knowledge industry sector. So I'm going to stop there and let Sam jump in as well.
Yeah, and before Sam jumps in, in the past, in the history of humanity, the other things that have revolutionized the world, the way that the knowledge industry is beginning to revolutionize the world, are things like fire. So fire revolutionized the world in terms of providing heat, in terms of people being able to cook, in many ways. Agriculture was another revolution when people realized how to plant and grow the food that they needed to survive. And electricity was a big example. I mean, look at us today. Who can imagine life without electricity at this point? So those were the other elements that revolutionized the world. So the next revolution is going to be the knowledge industry. And I want us to not be afraid of change, but I want us to embrace it. And I also want us to think of where are the opportunities to enhance our life, to enhance our jobs, and to be able to do more because of technology, artificial intelligence, and the internet. So the knowledge industries are those industries which are based on the intensive use of technology and human capital, industries which depend on knowledge and technology to generate revenue, what you said, Anthony. Some industries which are impacted include education, consulting, finance, insurance, information technology, health services, communications. So pretty much how technology can take the knowledge that we already have in different areas and enhance that knowledge to improve our jobs and our lives. So Sam, let us look at artificial intelligence, and just based on a layman's perspective, I think of artificial intelligence. Intelligence is a human capability, right? So this is what separates us from other species. Our ability to analyze information, our ability to process information, right? That separates us from other species. And again, it's unique to humans. But now machines can teach themselves superhuman skills, and that is what we call artificial intelligence. So we already covered the knowledge industry. So now, Sam, your take on artificial intelligence.
Well, artificial intelligence, as we know it, it's we know the basics. We know things like Siri, Alexa, self-driving cars, even Google search and so forth. Even something as simple as email spam. All of that uses AI to work. So we know the basics. But when you think of where AI is right now and where it is going, especially now the newest the most talked about AI now is Chat GPT, which can pretty much answer any question that you ask it. And one of the reasons is because it was programmed with all the information that is currently on the internet. But information and knowledge are two different things. You can have information, but it becomes knowledge when you apply it. And that's also correlates to experience. So with artificial intelligence, which is based on the human mind, based on the brain, we can see that it's here and it's here to stay. And it's not new. It has been here since the 1940s. They've been researching AI. So here we are, and to go back to agriculture, as we are talking in a Dominican context, right now, for example, there are over 200 new companies that are AI-based, agricultural companies that are AI-based in the US. So, and that goes from farm equipment, smart tractors, AI that can differentiate between crop and weeds. So herbicides can be applied, without damaging the crop itself. So we have to figure out how we are going to fit in, where we are going to, because everything is not going to work for us. Everything is not applicable, but we have to find the niche for us to fit in and use AI to our advantage.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you mentioned that, because we will talk about Chat GPT in a little while. But we also have to talk about the importance of embracing change, right? And I think to myself, here we are afraid of maybe terms like artificial intelligence and what it's capable of doing, but we are already embracing change. Look at this. We're on a program. I'm in Atlanta. Anthony, I believe, is in the New York City area, right, Anthony?
Yes, I'm in Brooklyn.
Sam, you're in Texas, and the radio station is in Dominica.
Right.
And here we are using the power of technology to be able to reach thousands of people around the world, because many of them are logged on via the internet, right? So we are already embracing change. If you have a smartphone, you're using WhatsApp, you're using Facebook, you're using emails, you are already embracing technology. So I want us to just think of everything we're talking about this evening as an extension of what we are already doing so that we can find ways to enhance our lives. But of course, we have to talk about the negatives when it comes to, artificial intelligence and everything else we're talking about. So the general benefit of artificial intelligence or AI is that it replicates decisions and actions of humans without human shortcomings, such as fatigue, emotion, and limited time. Machines driven by AI technology are able to perform consistent, repetitious actions without getting tired. It is also easier for companies to get consistent performance across multiple AI machines than is across multiple human workers. So, what I'm hearing is a streamlining of many of the mundane tasks that we may experience in work. And even this morning, speaking about change, CNN, I was looking at CNN this morning and they talked about the whole idea that a lot of parents are not adapting as quickly as the younger children in terms of accepting these changes, using these changes, and just knowing, because again, in order to protect our children, I said it on the last program, we have to know what they're involved in. So let me just hear your views on embracing changes such as artificial intelligence and the use of the internet and technology.
Okay, so I want to go back to not very long ago when texting and speaking in shorthand. Not long ago. So as we know, some older folks, older parents, they weren't too much into technology. So there is a meme that says a mom texts her son and asks him, "What does IDK mean?" So he replies, "I don't know." So she says, "Okay, I'll ask your sister," not realizing that he actually gave her the answer. So one of the things we have to realize as parents is that while some technologies our children will be ahead of us, we also have to try to at least know the basics so we can keep an eye on them. We know what it is they are doing and what they're getting involved in, especially when it comes to the internet. um, as I said earlier, the internet is full of information, but not all of it is good. Not all of it is wholesome and can help you. Some of it is can be dangerous, especially to our children. So while we have to embrace the change, or we have to realize that, as you said earlier, the one constant in life is change. We have to embrace that, but we also have to realize that we can't ignore it. And so as you talked about how some of the changes or the negative changes that will come with AI, one of the things that we have to think about is so I'll give you this example. The World Economic Forum surveyed about 800 companies, over 800 companies. And from that survey, they found that companies are saying that in 5 years, and this was done a few weeks ago. So from 2023, 5 years down the road, they will create 69 million new jobs and eliminate over 83 million jobs or positions, right? But while that is kind of scary when you look at it on the surface, you might consider, well, I'm going to lose my job. But you have to think about the fact that it's going to create new positions, which means companies are going to need the help of humans to implement the new ways that they are going to be doing things. Some of the jobs that will be eliminated are administrative work. So it's kind of like when computers replaced the typewriter. Secretarial work changed. People needed to be retrained and that kind of thing. So this is the direction we are headed. And
Yeah, yeah, and Sam, just to add to what you're saying, because I think the first thing we think of when we think of artificial intelligence and robots and everything that we're talking about this evening is, oh my God, my job is going to disappear. I'm going to be out of a job. And this is what there was a World Economic Forum that estimated about 14 million jobs will disappear, including areas such as secretarial, bank tellers, cashiers, data entry clerks. But the thing about it is we have to read beyond what is always presented before us, right? Because when I saw that number, I was quite startled and I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of people who are going to be out of work. But I kept researching and here is what I found. And if anybody's interested, I want to recommend 60 Minutes. If you receive 60 Minutes, the television program in your area, I will highly recommend it to you because they do a very good job of showing the both sides of the coin. Because I think too many times we get stuck in the mindset of black and white, yes or no, and we don't see the pros and the cons so we can make a better decision. But here is what another report said, that it is not so much that certain jobs will be eliminated. The jobs that include more mundane tasks will be eliminated, but it's an opportunity for higher level jobs. So for example, let's take the example of a radiologist, right? Somebody who looks at the different scans and stuff like that. Using what they're calling an AI collaborator, the technology will be able to look at all the cases that are presented to you. Let's say you come in the morning and you have different cases. The technology will be able to look at what you have for the day and prioritize it for you. So it is not a threat to you. It is enhancing the work that you're doing. So it will look at the cases and say, you know what, Mr. Joe's case is more serious, so let us pay attention to this one first. Number two, number three. So it's an AI collaborator that is enhancing the work that we're doing. Now, what does that mean to us as an employee? That means that we have to continue to educate ourselves. We have to continue to advance our education so that when these opportunities are presented, we can now demand higher pay. Does that make sense? Because if I am doing less mundane tasks, right, and I am doing higher skilled jobs, you can't turn around and pay me the same amount of money I was making when I was doing mundane tasks, because now I'm doing higher level tasks. So now that demands a higher salary. So I just want us to keep that in mind, that when we say job loss, yes, the mundane task, jobs that involve mundane tasks are in jeopardy, but there's also opportunity for higher level jobs. So Anthony, any thoughts on that?
Certainly. This is what was said before, like in the Industrial Revolution, it says that the machines are going to replace repetitive tasks and the higher level will be human driven. But here's the thing, AI is a game changer. Because AI, machine doing human like, so it learns, it's a machine that's going to learn reasoning. It's going to be cognitive, and it's going to have understanding. So more and more and more, it's going to be performing human-like tasks. So there is no doubt that not all the jobs that are lost are going to be recreated. Now, to go to your point of being fearful, that means that we should not be fearful, but we should be able to anticipate it and to redesign. AI is going to be such a game changer that is going to require a redesign of how society is organized. So we have gotten accustomed to this capitalistic system that we're in, and it's more, and industry is looking for you to exchange time for labor. But what the opportunity that is there is that with these machines, you would need less human input. And so instead of working a standard 8-hour day, we could work a standard 4-hour day. And the companies can make even more revenue than they were making when they were making 8-hour days from human. And so a mother can have more time to spend with a child. We can have more time to spend with each other. We can benefit from that, from changing society into that type of a society instead of thinking about it in the same paradigm that we're thinking about it right now, where we're thinking, well, for me to be able to feed my family, I have to wake up at 6 and go to work and stay there for 10 hours and work overtime and come back home. And if a machine is going to replace me, what am I going to do? We have to think about it. Our governments, our leaders, we as a community have to think about it and decide that because one company makes $1 trillion, that $1 trillion belong to that company. There has to be a redefining, a restructuring of society so that everybody benefits from the output of the society and benefits from the additional input of machines. Because as AI is going to be able to make those decisions. So to use the example of the radiologist, it means that the machine will be able to do the diagnosis from A to Z, and you only need a human person for a more unusual or intricate, say fracture of your leg. Well, how many of those interesting and different fractures do you get? The number doesn't increase. So yes, you will need less radiologists, or do you need less radiologists, or do you keep the same number of radiologists, but instead of them working 10 hours each, they each work 4 hours? So we have to, there is need for a whole complete change from what we've gotten accustomed to with capitalism, to think about it properly. And we may not want to go to socialism where we say, okay, we take from the rich and give to the poor. But as we advance in technology and as we advance in artificial intelligence, we can use the same technologies to come up with a design that works so that society can benefit overall from the introduction of AI. So those are the thoughts that I have around that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Anthony. And the other thing, because we're talking about the disadvantages before we really look at the opportunities that this will present for us. And you began talking about the opportunities in the beginning, but I want to dive deeper into that part of the conversation in a little bit. But let us look at the threats first and then look at the opportunities. Because, and again, you alluded to this, the lack of the human touch. Because now when everything is automated, I mean, how many of us have called the banks and have had to sit there through the endless automated options and think to ourselves, my God, how can I speak to a real person? And here's a little trick I figured out a long time ago that if you want to call the bank, well, at least here in the US, and you want to get somebody on the phone, press the option that says open an account.
Yep.
Because that is when they want to talk to you.
Yeah.
When you press open an account, immediately someone comes on the phone. But that is what we are saying, that yes, we will have all this technology that will be able to duplicate human cognition and human mental processing, but there is no replacement for the humanity. Especially going back again to our example of radiology, being able to break the news to a patient about a diagnosis and not having some cold and sterile machine just spit out the result to you, but having an actual doctor, nurse practitioner, a nurse, someone hold your hand and deliver that back news. And that is where artificial intelligence will never be able to replace human. It might be able to mimic it, but it will certainly not be able. So, as we're having this conversation, I want us to keep in mind that yes, the power of technology and AI and the internet will serve to enhance our lives in many ways, but we must not forget the importance of the human element, because I'm using this program as a recommendation to the government of Dominica in terms of what is possible if we're willing to create national policies that includes increasing the amounts of AI and technology that is available in Dominica. And we will talk about real ways that that is possible as we continue in the conversation. But Sam, do you have any thoughts right now?
Well, I except to agree with your point that we we can't simply bury our heads in the sand. We just cannot. And to be honest, I think speaking in terms of Dominica, I think we missed quite a few opportunities. We missed, well, the last one we missed, I would say, was the .com um, um, bot revolution. We missed that. Um, had we gotten into that earlier, we would have came out pretty good before the bubble burst. So here we are with yet another opportunity to tap into a resource that can generate millions for a nation. Uh, we cannot ignore it, as I said before, and we have to work together, and not just as individuals, because we can get education, we can get knowledge, we can travel overseas, and we can get our jobs, take care of our families, and do that all within for ourselves. But what about the island we love? What about Dominica? Where does Dominica go? Um, so it's gonna take a concerted effort between the private sector and the public sector to tap into this new boom of technology, and we are already involved and working with technology. So why not take it a couple steps further, where everyone can benefit from it?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct, Sam. Anthony, I'll come to you in just a little bit. And folks who are listening and are getting ready to call in, don't forget we will be taking your calls about the 9 o'clock hour. And we will also be taking the great feedback we're seeing coming in on Facebook and YouTube. So keep those comments coming. But we have to continue on the element of the importance of accepting change, because something else that just came to mind in terms of us ignoring everything that is going on around us and saying, you know what, this technology thing, boy, that's not for me now, you know how it is. But think of it this way. There is now technology, listen very carefully, there is now technology that can take your voice. So for those of us who are on the air, trying to do our best to educate and inform and entertain our population, our audiences, there is now technology that can take your voice, right, and repurpose it and give it a script to say that one of your relatives, your mother, your brother, your sister, has been kidnapped and they're demanding a ransom. Now, this is not just those of us who are in the broadcasting world. This is for anyone. So if you send those WhatsApp voice notes that all of us like to send, if you do YouTube videos, anywhere that your voice is available, the technology is now out there for someone to pretty much kidnap your voice and use it for their own purposes to demand a ransom from your family. And we say all of this not because we're trying to scare people, not because we're trying to create hysteria. We're saying all of this because those are examples of the reason why we need to be informed. We need to educate ourselves. We need to know what is going on in the world, because while we're sitting like an ostrich hiding away from the world is not hiding. And they're using our information for nefarious purposes. That is one of the reasons that I am completely against TikTok, because TikTok is a Chinese based company. And allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, the Chinese government can collect your data from TikTok. So, again, the importance of being informed, the importance of educating ourselves so we know what is out there, so we can protect ourselves. We can take advantage of what is there to take advantage of, but we can also protect ourselves and our families. Anthony, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, we were talking about negatives, Simone,
Yes.
and one of the first examples you gave in terms of a game changer in terms of life, you gave fire. And we know that fire is a very good servant, but when fire is not controlled or falls into the wrong hands, fire can be the most devastating weapon. And so one of the risks that we face with information technology, with the amount of data and with artificial intelligence is interference in our daily lives and in our personal freedoms by um, the government, by big institutions, by folks who quote unquote have power. And so as we move, this is Dominica is now moving towards an electronic passport. We might go to electronic ID cards. We have dipped our toes in, or we've not dipped our toes, we've dived into cryptocurrencies. All of these things that are going to be run on technology, where a footprint, a trail can be left. And with the power of computers now, it is possible for an institution or government to know more about you than you know about yourself. Do you remember exactly what time you woke up on Monday?
Mhm.
Exactly what time? But if your clock is connected to the Internet of Things, somebody can know that you woke up at 5:37 and 3 seconds. Someone can know what time you come home because they can track what time you turn on your lights. They can even know what you eat because they can track when you open your fridge and what you take out of your fridge. And so all of your patterns can be grouped together and it can be used for negative purposes. That is one of the major downsides in this technology. That's one of the main threats, right? Should we then be afraid? And no, I will reiterate the point that you and Sam just made. The way to mitigate that is to have as much information about it as possible. It's not to run away from it, it's not to bury your head in the sand, it's to know as much about it as possible because then you will be able to recognize when the process is going on, what's happening to you. And if you understand it, you have a better chance of being able to take action to limit it, to prevent it, to reverse it. But if you just say that is something complex and you're afraid of it, then when it starts, these negative impacts start coming at you, you have no idea what to do with it. You are at the mercy of the person who has the power and the knowledge. So that is what I would add to reinforce what you just said is that the idea is to not be afraid of it. The idea is to embrace it. The more people who embrace it is the more understanding that we'll have, is the more independent people will develop solutions. So, for example, fire, come back to fire. Once upon a time, fire was just a buka in the forest. Now we've been able to tame fire and we have it in our home. Our youngest child can go to our stove and turn a knob, and the stove lights and it doesn't burn down the house and they can cook. But if everybody was afraid of fire and only a few people had access to fire, then fire would remain as a weapon, as a threatening thing that you can hold over the heads of the public. So embrace it, don't be afraid of it. There are far more benefits than there are detriments to it.
Yeah, and Sam, before I come to you, thank you, Anthony. You said that very well. Before I come to you, and that is one of the reasons we're so grateful for this platform for Q95 radio, because Q95 is definitely becoming the education station. I heard a few comments about that this week, and it is absolutely true to be able to come on here and have experts in this area just talk to us and educate us and inform us about the pros and cons. And speaking of pros and cons, and weighing the different options, the good and the bad of technology, we have to talk about Chat GPT, right? Because that is the newest innovation that has come on the market, and it has the potential to do so much good, but it also has the potential to do very bad. So, Sam, let me come to you, and we won't probably go into the very technical terms such as open AI and chat box and all that stuff, because we want to keep it at a layman's level where I can understand it, because this is not my field. But let us talk a little bit about the potential of an application such as Chat GPT, because what we are seeing with Chat GPT is, because there is so much information on the internet, and I looked it up. I think to date now we have something like 2.5 billion pages that make up the internet. So because of this vast information, we have an application such as Chat GPT, which can now revolutionize many aspects of our life. So Sam, let me come to you for more information about exactly what that is.
Well, you're right. Chat GPT is it's a great tool. It's and that's what all of this stuff is. AI. It's a tool. Much like a hammer and a saw, from a carpenter uses. But so I'll give you this example. G&D Enterprises, we develop software, and one of the things that we actually, one of my developers is kind of playing with it now, is using Chat GPT to check our code. We still write the code, but he uses the AI to check the code and make sure that there are no errors, and you find errors. Because no matter how good the human eyes are, or how, if you have 20/20 vision, or how good your mind is, you will still make errors. So in that small sense, it's a great tool. Where I and even personally, I have some concern, and plenty of folks have said this, is that how is ChatGPT going to be abused by, say, plagiarism, for example, or and by the way, in March, in the US, the US Copyright Office has said it will not, AI generated work, whether it's art, music, or text, is not eligible for copyrighting that. So that is that's an issue that's gonna have to be addressed at some point. So, but what about folks who use Chat GPT to cheat? Whether it's doing a paper for school, you're doing your degree, and instead of writing your paper yourself, you prompt the AI and it writes your paper for you. So the question is, how are professors, how are teachers going to deal with this? I spoke to one professor who told me that he's going to tell his students that if they use AI to write their papers, he's going to know and he will fail them. But is that the right approach? How do we balance that?
Yeah, certainly. And just for the layman like me who's still wondering, what exactly is this Chat GPT that we're talking about? So think of it as a language model that can answer questions and assist you with tasks such as composing emails, essays, writing speeches, and as Sam just mentioned, writing code. So if you've ever heard of Alexa, Siri, those applications where you just say, Siri, what is the population of England? And it gives you an answer. So that is yet another application where you can just ask simple questions and it provides the answer for you. And again, going back to 60 Minutes, which is where I get a lot of my information from on technology, the reporter actually asked ChatGPT to summarize the New Testament. And ChatGPT summarized the New Testament in 5 seconds and 17 words. So that is the kind of capability we're talking about. Another positive of ChatGPT, let's say you open your fridge, you don't want to waste food because we all know food is a very precious resource. You simply enter the items you have in your fridge and it tells you what recipes. So those are all good. But again, the negative, plagiarism. Someone like me who's a professor, I have to be concerned because is the work that my student producing their work, or is it the work that they've used ChatGPT? As a matter of fact, there was an example where an entire political ad against Biden was shown on TV, and none of it had been done by a human. It was all Chat GPT and AI technology. So again, just being aware. So now when we see things, videos and information out there, we have to question, is this real or is this something which was created by technology? And that lends itself to the importance of regulation, the importance of government regulation. So yes, we're talking about, implementing that in Dominica and how can it be used to benefit us in Dominica. We also have to ask the question, what are the important regulations that have to be put in place so that this is not abused? So any final points, guys, before we head to the telephone?
Yeah. So again, we have to start to, the only way we can address this thing is to change our way of thinking about it. We cannot continue to thinking about it in the same frame that we've always thought about it. Um, we've been able to get away with it so far. So in other words, when I went to university, the internet was just budding. It wasn't available to everybody. So to do my research, I had to walk to the library, check out a bunch of books, and sit down all night doing stuff.
Yep.
The folks who came after me can sit at their computer. Everybody has a personal computer. They can sit there, do research, and print out their papers and write 100 times easier. Now we're saying that you can have a concept, type it into an AI such as ChatGPT, and by the way, there are others that are more advanced than ChatGPT right now, and it will produce a paper for them. Um, we cannot think about it in that sense to say, well, we're going to try to regulate them to stop that, because that horse has already left the barn. We have to try to probably reimagine what education is. Because if the information is readily available on your phone in your pocket, the doctor has it on his desk, is it really necessary for the doctor to be able to, in school, sit down and do all of this rigor and produce a 300-page document from his head over 6 months? Can we now look at what is required from that doctor and therefore tailor the education to challenge the skills that he has to learn, and the more mundane things like producing papers and those things just become, we take it for granted that there is technology that's going to make it simpler. So again, this is such a game changer. We cannot try to and fit it into the box in which we exist right now. We have to turn the box into a ball, or turn it into some other kind of shape, and be able to wrangle all of those changes that's coming. Otherwise, because even as of now, legislature doesn't even know what to do with the internet. So that's what I would say. We have to. There's a need to change the way in which we know life as it is, and think differently, so that we can be able to wrap our hands around what is coming in terms of AI and so on.
Yeah, and before I go to Sam, Anthony, if you want to remind your This Week in Interview audience
Oh
what we're
yes,
doing this evening.
Yeah, for those of us who joined a little bit late and wondering what's going on, Sam is the producer of this weekend interview. I'm the host. Um, we sort of make two back tonight. Uh, and we
Because it's
decided
Simone. Because it's Simone.
exactly we decided that we would collaborate with Simone, and be a guest on Roots Connection. And so, folks, you have a special treat tonight because this weekend interview is usually a 1 hour show, but Roots Connection is a 2 hour show. So we will be going on until 10 o'clock. It's still this weekend interview as far as you're concerned because you've seen it from a platform and listening to it on TV and radio. But it's we are the guests of Simone and Q95 and the good folks over there.
Yes, and we're very grateful to have you on board. Sam, any comments
Thank you.
before we go to the radio?
Thank you for having us. Yeah. So one of the other things that I would say is that in terms of concern for AI or using AI to generate work is authors. And I wanted to make that point because what you would say a young author myself, Simone, you've published as well. I'm still trying to get Anthony to start writing, but we'll talk about that another time.
AI is going to make it happen. Watch.
No
That's
chicken.
what that's
No
what we don't
chicken.
want. That's what we don't want. We want the human touch to the writing. But so authors are concerned about how this is going to affect them because I was looking at a YouTube video and a guy was talking about how he used AI to generate a 119-page book in less than an hour, which is already on Amazon selling for $2 and change. And it's like, wow, okay. Think about when thousands of people begin doing that and begin to flood the market with AI generated books. Now, the interesting thing is Amazon doesn't require you to declare how your book was written. So he doesn't have to say that his book was generated using AI. Maybe they'll change their policies later on, but for now, by the time they get to that, policy change, which it will end up happening, the market is going to be flooded with so many of these kinds of books that authors who normally take their time and be creative and write probably will be flooded out of the market. So, but again, as you say, we'll talk about the positive aspects of using AI. So we're not trying to damper anyone or scare you in any way. As we're trying to say is we have to be aware of what is really going on, what is happening before we can embrace it. So education is important. And as I said, so in other words, public-private sector collaboration is important, which includes education, or which includes changing the education system to include study of AI and training and all of that kind of and all of this. So we know where we are when things happen. We know exactly what to do.
Yeah, because what it boils down to is knowledge is power.
Yeah, or at
For
least we
the
have
good and the bad. For the good and the bad.
exactly.
Yes. So guys, drink some water. Let's take a quick break while we go to the radio, to the telephone. I keep saying the radio. While we go to the telephone, Lambi.
You are listening or viewing Roots Connection and Q across a number of platforms. We welcome you this evening and are taking your calls right now. The numbers are as follow: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Those are all local numbers, and the international number is 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers again. 449-3095-9697, 616-4257. The overseas number, 305-432-9624. And we already have a call on the line. Let's take this call. Caller, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Simone. And
Good evening.
your your two guests you have on there. And I think
Good
the
evening.
gentleman name is Anthony, the one from Casablanca.
Yes, Drigo,
Drigo.
Anthony Drigo.
Yeah, Drigo, Mr. Drigo. He was the first one who spoke, and he just brought up an issue that I wanted to bring up. He just mentioned the computer can follow your sleep pattern and whatnot, and a Fitbit does that now. A
Mm-hmm.
Fitbit will tell you how many hours you sleep, how many times you were slightly awake throughout the night, and give you the whole data of your nightly sleep. And these are the things that a lot of people are kind of leery about it. And I want to address your issue, Simone, by saying that we must embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And you are right to a certain degree. But I want to bring back to the same point you're making. We must look at the pros and cons. Because even with the dot-com era, a lot of people got left behind. A lot of people still can't use a smartphone for that matter, much less for a computer. But the invasiveness of AI is kind of disturbing. But I've always find it quite interesting because I will give you a name, and I'm sure everybody is on the panel pretty familiar with him. Stephen Hawking.
Mm-hmm.
You, are you familiar with Stephen Hawking?
It sounds vaguely familiar. Tell us more.
Yeah.
He is a
Yeah.
scientist. He's an older gentleman. I think he died a year or two ago. He was crippled in a wheelchair
Oh,
for many
yes.
years,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
his computer was his voice.
Mm-hmm.
So the artificial intelligence read his thoughts and everything, and what somehow it's amazing. If you see him, I'm sure there are areas on YouTube and stuff, videos you could look at. But it's very interesting and very innovative that man can do these things. But the invasiveness of that thing of AI is what I think a lot of people will be kind of leery about. And once you said that, I will give another set of examples. Like my brother just mentioned the new passport, the digital passport, right? There are issues with some of the program, couple program they tested, they don't work real good for black people for capturing your facial structure. They make mistakes, and there was an issue, argument about it, with the creators and non people who don't really want to go down this way because of it almost had a racial component to it. Saying a black person can be wrongly accused of get wrapped up in something that they did not do because this computer picked that person out, even to the iris of your eyes, where it read your eye pattern. So all that technology is out there now. So you could go through a scanner and you're being scanned and you don't know. Just like you mentioned your telephone. And I've always known that the telephone and the computer monitors you. Even if you turn it off and you're not using it, because you mentioned earlier in your show, you will have a conversation and speak about certain things, and you open your phone and boom, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is way beyond algorithms. Algorithms is when you use your machine so many times and you establish a pattern. That machine learn your pattern and it responds to you. Wherever you go shopping, whatever you do. But these things that you have your machine off, you put it down, and you having a conversation in the room, and it seems almost like this thing is monitoring you. So these are the cons that I see. But the pros, I have no problem with it. Like you go to the store, they are self-checkout. A lot of people don't like it because they say put people out of work. And I understand, well, if you have a machine, it's going to put some people out of work. But then it is a plus or minus because I walk in the sun and walk out quick because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. But sometimes I say, well, let me go to a person. So I have that person to person uh, relationship as opposed to just a machine. Because after a while, you use machine so much you will lose the ability to communicate with other humans. And some people are beginning to get like that. So you see, over the pandemic, a lot of people were home and everybody on machine, everything, what you call it, virtual and whatnot. And I think it has affected mentally how we relate. That's why there are so many cases of people who have psychotic problems and all this whatnot. But it's a very interesting conversation you all have there, and I'm listening. Quite interesting because I've some of
Yeah, and thank you for your contribution.
it.
Yes, Lambi, anybody else? Yes, so some very important points that our caller raised this evening. So I want to thank him for that. And as a matter of fact, I'm happy that he brought up the Fitbit, which is the watch that many people wear to track their steps and track a whole bunch of things, because that Fitbit was actually what acquitted someone of murder. Yes, indeed, because the person was able to show that, because of the Fitbit that they always wear, it proved that that person had been sedentary, laying in bed for the entire night while a murder was committed somewhere else. Can you imagine that? That is a real case that actually happened with someone. So again, the power of technology, we cannot underestimate the power of the technology. And I also like that he mentioned the ability to assist our differently able, that this man who was completely paralyzed had a computer that could read his thoughts and also be able to project on a computer screen and via voice what he was thinking. The power of technology again. And we have a call coming, so let's take the call.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening to you, Lambi. How you doing? And good evening to your panelists,
I'm
Drigo, Dr.
Good
Simone,
evening.
and gentlemen. Yeah, it's been a
Good
while.
evening.
But
Good evening.
Good evening.
yeah, very timely conversation and presentation. And I'll tell you what, I just did an exam for one of my classes on Monday, and it was an introduction to business analytics. And the last time I was in school in my undergrad was almost 20 years ago. So now it's a new dimension learning in this era. And I was surprised that the professor was asking us to use Chat GPT for our exams. So lo and behold, I had an account, and I decided to try Chat GPT for my final exams, which I just did on Monday, which was pretty weird, but as Drigo said, it's something you have to embrace. Like everything else, he used the analogy of fire, and I always tell people water is essential for life, but if we have too much rain, it will drown you. If you drink too much water, it will kill you. So therefore, there has to be controls. But one of the other things that I wanted to point out, the existence of data analytics and data science has been happening for a long time. With the advent of computers and the storage capacities of our computers and the speed of our computers, there is a revolution in data analysis where companies are using all that information they have gathered for years, turning unstructured information into structured information, and detecting trend patterns in there to make better business decisions. To sell to consumers, the people, to sell services and goods to consumers, to see when is the best time to go on vacation. In the case of ChatGPT, imagine what that could do for our court systems, where our lawyers and the legal fraternity can now use that technology to advance cases, thereby increasing justice, shortening the time that things stay in the court. So there are lots of uses. But Drigo made another critical point, which I'm going to talk about two of them. One is the abuse of power. We have to remember, with all this artificial intelligence, what it's trying to do is to remove the subjectivity and be more objective. So as a result, if we remove the human weaknesses of greed, hatred, jealousy, envy from the artificial intelligence, we hopefully will get a better response to an answer or a problem. But here's the deal. We have already been seeing how artificial intelligence is used by governments, example, the ones in China, to control their people. And Drigo alluded to that fact, how our political system is going to be affected, because at the end of the day, the desire of humans to have power over others, the desire of humans to be greedy, the desire of humans to have wealth and to be better than others, the competitive nature of us is going to be an issue in the utilization of this technology. In China today, a lot of this artificial intelligence is used to control the population, to control your behaviors, to detect your patterns. Now you're asking about questions of individual freedoms and liberty among the people, of having people having the right, to express themselves. So there lies the problem. And I think what needs to happen is the policymakers, although they can't catch up because artificial intelligence is growing exponentially. So too is data. I mean, in every 18 minutes, we have millions of terabytes of data that's being stored and collected on people. And then you're going to ask yourself, how are the liberties and freedoms of individuals are going to be infringed upon when those who hold the power of artificial intelligence is in the wrong hand? And then the last thing I'd like to talk about, and I'm referencing Drigo because he was expressing some of my thoughts, is back in the Industrial Revolution, everybody thought that machines were going to take over human beings. But what we have to realize is, at the end of the day, if I'm a company or we have 500 companies out there and we are going to replace our people with artificial intelligence, then who is eventually going to buy our goods and services? So it's not in the interest or the best interest of the human population to get rid of all its workers. Then you don't have a market, because the same goods and services you are using to gain wealth or to build the economic wealth or the economic structure needs people. So if you replace all your artificial intelligence, if you replace all your people, your human capacity with AI, and AI is doing the work, then who is going to buy your goods and services? So it's not in our best interest. But like everything else, in everything in this world, there's good and bad. And I think it's about weighing what works, what doesn't work, and putting the right legislative framework so that it cannot be abused by our human weaknesses, the greed, the selfishness, the jealousy, the envy, and the hatred that still exist in humans. But thank you, and as I said earlier, a very, very, very timely program.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. And the caller is so right, because data is big business. So, especially in China, he's absolutely on point in terms of the government's ability to acquire information and use it to their advantage. So it does beg the questions of human rights and rights to privacy in terms of everything that we are talking about. And he's also correct in terms of, in the legal area, where you can have AI now do the legal aid research on a much quicker time than an individual can do the research. So again, another application of the technology for the good and for the bad. And I also like that the first caller mentioned that, he alluded to the fact that all of this can create loneliness, because now you have less human interaction. You go to the store, before you would be able to say, hi, hello, how are you, to a cashier. Now everything is automated. You call the bank, it's automated. You spend more time on Facebook than talking to people in real life. So the element of loneliness and other mental illnesses that can come from that is certainly very important. Before we take the Facebook comments, we have a call, and then guys, I just want your feedback on what the callers are saying so far. Can you mute your mics in a little while? I'm hearing a little bit of feedback, Anthony and Sam, and then we want to come to your comments.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Lambi, I'm back because I'm listening again, and Simone mentioned ChatGPT. Simone, what I call ChatGPT is Alexa and Siri on steroids.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's very powerful. But I just called back to sanction what one of the gentlemen said, because earlier this week I was listening to a program on that same issue of where AI writing or imitating a musician, and then it becomes an argument of who gets paid for that music if AI was to perform it. So I'm really interested that for the things that I've listened on AI, because it's been in the news a lot, but I go to areas where I get like very in-depth information about it. And that was one of the things that I forget to mention, and he just reminded me of that. So I just wanted to bring it back and highlight it. Thanks for mentioning that one, young man. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Another call, Lambi, or we can go ahead? Okay, great. Guys, Sam and Anthony, any comments on the callers?
Okay, sure. The callers, of course, have brought up valid points. The callers who talked about justice, for example, the use of AI in a way, and well, actually, going back to what you talked about, the case where the Fitbit was used to prove that someone was innocent of a crime, that is huge. And it's not being talked about everywhere. It should be on mainstream media, but it is not. Maybe because it's one case or it hasn't taken a hold yet. But think of the number of folks who have been imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit because they couldn't prove they weren't where the crime occurred. So this is a great tool to which can literally save someone's life or save their freedom. But one of the, I think, the more important or I call it positives that AI can bring out is fewer errors. Because think about it, we as humans will make mistakes all the time. We could be tired, we could be stressed out, we could be going through something, and we make an error. Less errors in diagnosis, for example. You go to the doctor, you're not feeling well, you diagnose, and plenty of people have been misdiagnosed and even lose their lives because they were treated for the wrong illness. So this is an area where AI can certainly assist in removing the element of human error in most aspects of our lives.
Yeah, certainly. Anthony.
You're muted, bro.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Just a comment from a couple of my viewers. One of them sent me an article that shows that the Venezuelan government is using ID cards made by a Chinese company to track its citizens. And then another one sent me something asking a question: why doesn't why doesn't the government of Dominica take the advice from key professionals to move to do research and development on key agricultural products that can help farmers be profitable and sustainable with Dominica food production and security? So the listeners and the viewers are actually coming up with examples that exist in the Caribbean. But so the problem with AI, or the issue that we have to grapple with AI, is that it doesn't take a whole lot of smarts to design an artificial intelligent robot. Because what happens is that they learn as they go. So it can be a robot that starts very dumb, very mundane, and as it goes through experiences, it picks up the experience. Now, that is also multiplied because you can have multiple of them connected to each other. So, for example, a Tesla car, all the Tesla cars are connected. And so that if there is one thing that is learned on a Tesla car, it is shared across the platform with all the Tesla cars. And so if you imagine that with a system, if one person were able to beat the system in Dominica, for example, and the system recognizes that and plugs that hole, it shares that solution with all the systems that it is connected to. And so you can imagine that if, say, you have 1,000 individual systems and they each learn one thing a day, that means each of them are learning 1,000 things a day. in a year, you have 365,000 things that this system on a whole has learned. And you have companies, the bigger companies like Amazon and Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook. They have openly stated that their objective is to create a system that is beyond human capability. And so with a declared objective like that, that is where some of the concerns come in, because if it is beyond human comprehension or human capacity, what happens when it starts to snowball and it starts to go down in a negative direction or in an unfavorable result? Who is going to bring it back in and rein it in? So those are some of the bigger and more complex issues that are being presented in front of us with artificial intelligence. And I know one of the callers mentioned about the human touch. I can tell you that artificial intelligence is blowing that line. You might go to the supermarket and there's a robot standing there looking like a young lady that's interacting with you and can scan. And when let's say you scan your card, it knows your name and it says, "Hi, Anthony, welcome. Did you get everything you needed today? Oh, do you know, I know your favorite ice cream is chocolate chip cookies. Do you know we have a sale on chocolate chip cookies?" It's much more enhanced than even a human being can be. And so those kind of interaction are what we're going to expect. This thing about human touch and emotions and whatever it is, those things can be programmed. And the system is going to learn it as it goes along. It's not feeling it, but we are feeling it, and therefore it knows what to say to us and what to do with us, so that it gets the reaction from us, even if it is not reacting. And so that is where artificial intelligence is going to be, and it's not going to be far away. It's like 5 years, 6 years. And so, Simone, where we're talking about in Dominica, for example, we know that Dominicans have a higher level of intelligence than average. And it's not just an idle claim. We look at the institutions that Dominicans get into. We look at the roles that Dominicans play. It is evident that Dominicans have a very high intellectual capacity.
Yeah, I think we have a call. Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony, we'll come right back to you. Keep that thought. Okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, we have a call.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good night, Lambi.
Good night.
Simone, Anthony, and the other panelists.
Good evening.
Good night, sir.
Good evening.
Well, I heard the other panelists say that artificial intelligence can more or less replace at a quicker pace a lot of work that human beings do.
Yes.
But artificial intelligence, no matter how efficient it may be, it has no soul, it has no feeling, it has to be monitored.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I had a friend who was in the hospital very sick, and I was discussing him with another friend who told me something, and I wrote to tell him that I hope he does. DOES. The artificial intelligence of the phone changed it to DIES.
Oh my.
And it didn't take long after that, the guy really did die, you know.
Oh my.
Wow.
So artificial intelligence, like I say, there's no stopping it, but it cannot replace human beings because it has no soul, it has no feeling. It is just practical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I only make that comment.
Yes, thank you so much for your contribution, and our sympathies on your loss.
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good night. Yes, Anthony, back to you.
So, thank you, caller, for that. And that gives an example, a very clear example of what I'm saying. That's one of the risks. You see how the artificial intelligence went in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Now, if it is at a stage where it is beyond the capacity or capability of humans, and it continues to go in that wrong direction, what's stopping it? You know, and even with ChatGPT, it has been proven that ChatGPT is not accurate. It might write a very nice sounding document, but when you check the facts, it is not accurate, because we know that on the internet there's a lot of false information on the internet. Somebody wake up and they think of something and they write it down as if it is fact, and therefore the robot is scrolling through and it picks that up and it puts it in a paper or in a document for you as if it is true. So those are some of the things that we certainly have to bear in mind. And Simone, I'll pass it back to you, but I was going to talk about if what can Dominica do potentially
Yes,
to embrace.
yes, hold that thought. Make sure you make a note of that, because that is where we're going next on the other side of the Facebook Live, YouTube Live comments. So again, just a reminder, you're listening to Roots Connections on Q. We are being joined by Mr. Sam George and Mr. Anthony Drigo, who's helped us to navigate the topic of artificial intelligence, the knowledge industry, the threats and the opportunities that exist. And again, if you miss any part of the program, you can always jump on Q95 FM radio on YouTube and Facebook, as well as Q95DA.com and push past 10. Lots of opportunity to catch the replay tomorrow if you missed any part of this program. But we must take some of our comments before we move forward, because we are so grateful for our viewers on YouTube and Facebook. David Johnson, always great to see you. He says, greetings, good nights to each and everyone. Special good evening to the guest and host, Didi Esther, always locked in. Good evening, Dr. Simone, and your esteemed guests, Mr. Drigo, Mr. Sam George, Dave Bertrand, up very late over there in the UK. Dave, great to see you. Good night, everyone listening. Lauren Del Sol, a true fan of the program. Nice to see you. Lorraine, Arthur, Annette, Philip. Annette, I'm so happy you're joining us, because Sam just expressed one of the concerns that many authors experience. And she says, good night, watching Anthony and Sam. Thanks for all that you do. Love working with you guys. Oma Monel, great to see you. Tina Bell de Ramon, thank you for being here. My mom, Medina Senhouse, nice to see you. Jeffrey Coffey, great to see you. Someone who's embracing technology with his water production. Jeffrey Coffey, great to see you. Rosalind Severa McLean, nice to see you on the program. Good evening to the panel. Maslin Edwards, lovely to have you on board. Good evening, everyone. It's nice seeing Anthony and in the guest seat. Anthony, good to see you in the guest seat. Thanks, Dr. Simone. My good friend, Carl Kofi James. Greetings and blessings, Dr. Simone and panel. Great discussion. Augustina John. Good evening, everyone. Brampton, Ontario, Canada is watching. Augustina, always great to have you on board. Didi says, to Sam's point, whereas it is impossible for AI to learn how to detect emotions and demonstrate empathy, however, it is improbable for AI to connect with humans in the same way as humans do with each other. Very good point. Annette says, my second children's book, Sammy Gets Bullied illustration, will be in AI. And then Didi also states, just as lecturers and professors can detect a student work as plagiarism simply because the wording were completely different to past work submitted, similarly, the professor can determine the work presented is as a result of ChatGPT. ChatGPT in full chat generative pre-training transformer, thank you for the definition, software that allows a user to ask it questions using conversational or natural language. Thank you very much, Didi. Alvin Thomas, great to see you. Great discussion this evening. And Alvin also adds, the new kids on the block are definitely going to embrace this technology very well. But of course, the concerns raised by Tony and Sam is so important. Carl Kofi, AI technology definitely gonna be a very ticklish subject going forward, because there are gonna be pros and cons, but I think our social skills are being deprived. We are actually moving away from utilizing our brain. How are we gonna express ourselves when we are controlled through AI by those in power? Owen Prosper, always great to see you. Thank you for being here, Medora Lewis. Good evening to everyone. Very interesting. Nice seeing Drigo in the seat. Well spoken. Thank you, Dr. Simone. Blessings to you. Alvin Thomas again. Question to the guest, Simone. What of the creative mind with the advent of AI and ChatGPT, is there going to be less use of that part of the brain, creating now a lazy brain? So let's take a comment from someone we haven't heard from yet. Marshall Lawrence, great to see you. Good evening, great discussion. Question: can any of you share in short the difference between human or divine intelligence from artificial intelligence? So guys, take a note. Any questions you want to respond to? Ernest Letar, great to see you. Khalid Elastic, great to see you. And he says, great content. Thank you guys for the work that you do. Wow, we have quite an audience with us this evening. So thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. We're going to take a phone call. And then guys, if you want to comment on anything that I read, feel free to do so.
Yeah, among all what I've been said and told, does that include man lifestyle? Would man live longer if all the intelligent having this world there? You understand my question?
Say it one more time.
Will that make man live longer or shorter?
Well, that's a good question. I guess it depends on how we use the technology for our health and wellness, right?
But technology cannot your lifespan live longer because man lifespan getting shorter.
Yes, I see your point. Thank you. Yes, guys. Any thoughts on some of the questions and concerns on the Facebook and YouTube Live?
Okay.
It's a lot.
But let's talk a little bit about, someone talked about creativity.
Yes.
Obviously, we know AI lacks creativity, and no matter how close we program AI, it's still run by computer code and computer software. It can never, and of course, to the gentleman who called and said that the AI changed his word to, and he lost a friend. Of course, our condolences, but that is one of the examples of an error made by AI. But that AI still, I believe, will reduce the number of errors that we as humans make whenever we are doing work or whatever it is we are doing in certain fields, of course. And AI will not replace us in every aspect of life. There's no way, obviously. So lack of creativity is one of them. Also, ethical dilemmas is another area where AI, because AI is pure logic. If you want to think of it this way, AI is basically math. So, which is pure logic. It doesn't make decisions based on emotions or little nuances that humans have to, say, well, maybe I should step left instead I step right, or instead of going forward, I should turn right going down the street. If the AI decides that the logical step is to drive straight into a wall, that's what it will do. So, and again, it's not about being afraid of all of the negative things or the crazy things that may or may not happen. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, and I want to go take it back to the Dominican context. The conversation is, what are we going to do to become part of the global market or the global industry that AI is occupying, so we, our people, can benefit from that before something else, before it moves on and something else takes over and we miss that opportunity again. What are we going to do about it? And the way I see it is, it's going to take education, it's going to take the legislature, it's going to take the government, it's going to take the private sector, but it is also going to take the citizens to demand the change that we need, or the changes that we need to embrace the movement or the direction in which the technology is going, and not run away from it.
Yeah, excellent points, Sam. And Anthony, before I come to you for your feedbacks on the questions on the Facebook Live, it begs the question, is Dominica ready for this? Dominica, as it stands today, are we ready to embrace AI? Are we ready to defend against the negative aspects of AI? Your thoughts?
Right. Is Dominica ready for AI? And I think yes. I think in the sense that, because as I said before, I think Dominicans have a really high intellectual capacity. And what is AI? AI is teaching machines to learn. Which, and if we have the intellectual capacity, it means that our people also has the ability to learn. And so from that point of view, I am saying yes, and we have a relatively young population. So Simon, a video was shared with me like a week ago where there was a lot of research that was done on Dominican cocoa. They went and they studied the genome and the DNA of cocoa, and could determine the different varieties of cocoa that exist in Dominica. And it turns out that Dominica has a wide variety of the finest cacao that could make high value chocolate. That is what I mean. We have individual bright shining specks of light because with that information, and they were able to map excuse me, the different varieties of cacao, where in Dominica are the best conditions to grow them and how to graft them and so on. And therefore, we can revive a cocoa industry in Dominica. But this time we're doing it with intelligence, doing it with technology, with data. So we have a better chance of mitigating against the pest and the different diseases that destroyed the industry before. We can maybe plant varieties or mix them so that they can rebound from a hurricane faster. And not only that, we can now access the information to learn how to make chocolate. So instead of just selling the raw material cocoa, we can be selling high value chocolate. And we can apply that sort of approach across the board. We can use our tourism sector, for example, and identify our target audience. Who are the folks who like to hike? Who are the folks who looking for a challenging place for bicycle riding? Who are the athletes that need a nature hot spring environment to recover from in the off season? We can use artificial intelligence to turn around and to really segment out our market, and then have an efficiency index in what we spend on advertising, and get exactly the tourists that we would like. So yes, we can, if we make our minds up to it. And of course, we will have to be able to change our curriculum in our schools, change how we train our people to accommodate that. So for example, I'm an engineer. I work in construction, but I don't hold a trowel. I don't hold a hammer. My work, at the end of the day, my work is on paper. My work is on a computer. My work is knowledge, intelligence. Because I don't have a wall that I build at the end of the month to show this is what I did, pay me for that. I don't have a cabinet that I built to show I built this cabinet, pay me for that. What I have is knowledge on a paper, knowledge on a computer. And so if we think about it that way, we will not be afraid of what is coming, because before we used to produce stuff, physical stuff with our hands. Now we can use our mind and have products that are high value that we can provide in the global market, and be able to survive in a much more equitable way. We don't have to deal with gramaxone and all these other harsh chemicals that have all people dying of cancer and all of those things. We can go into an industry that's much cleaner and much more high value, and as a result, improve the life of our people while they produce more and do less.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, brilliantly said. Thank you for those examples. And I am so happy that you talked about the cocoa production, because we will certainly want to mark our calendars. May 24th, Dr. Lloyd Davidson reached out to me, and they will be the guest on Roots Connections on Q on May 24th. So again, they will be our guests. So you want to be a part of this program to see how they are revolutionizing the cocoa industry using technology. And I think you led very well into our discussion about the opportunities. So far, you've talked about opportunities in tourism, you've talked about opportunities in education, you've talked about opportunities in agriculture. And there is so much more. There are so many more opportunities. Think, for example, there is now an app available where if a tourist comes to Dominica, they can simply take the app and using Google Maps, which is another technology that kind of tells you your location for anyone who's less familiar, it can tell you the location. And let's say, for example, you're at Trafalgar Falls. It can talk to you and tell you all about the history of Trafalgar Falls, tell you all about the historic aspects of where you are standing right now, and also tell you some fun facts. So why would we not use a technology such as this? So in general, companies are using AI to automate mundane tasks, freeing up employees to focus on more creative endeavors. AI-driven analytics tools are helping businesses make better decisions faster by analyzing large amounts of data quickly and accurately. And AI-powered customer service systems are providing customers with faster, more personalized service experiences. So exactly what you talked about, Anthony, in terms of the robot who will be at the supermarket and tell you, I know that you love chocolate, there's a sale on chocolate. So Sam, let's talk about some opportunities in AI as we get ready to wind down the program. I swear 2 hours goes by way too quickly.
Time flies when you're having fun, they say.
But Sam, any opportunities in AI, technology, and the internet you want to share with our audience this evening?
Well, I think we've covered some of that earlier,
Yes.
but one of the things that, and I want to go back to education a bit, because we have how many young people or people are graduating from high school and college in Dominica this year. So what are they going to do? Are there jobs for them? So this is a way AI would help with basically helping them start a business, right? So let's say you want to start a business, you want to get a certain amount of money from the bank. If you are going to use AI technology to help you with your business, you could start a one-person business, but you don't have to get additional employees, which will cost more money. The bank might be less willing to lend you the money, just as an example. So there are more examples than we can actually think of right now that AI can help Dominica and Dominicans improve on their lives without having to wait for someone to give them a job, or without having to wait for the government to do something for them. And so again, while it is important that we know what the cons are and we know what the pros are, and how we're going to deal with them when they come up, because like everything else, something will always happen, something will always come up that, but having the information, having the knowledge about this particular issue would be okay. So if this happens, if something happens that will have a negative impact on the society, how do we deal with it? And of course, how do we put things in place to prevent abuse of the technology.
Yeah, yeah,
To go,
absolutely. And Sam, I like that you're leading with jobs because that is an area, we talk about job loss, but let's also talk about opportunities for work because we know in Dominica, there's a work online program that is currently going on. I would like to see it expanded because they only take about, I think, 60 young people per cycle. So I would like to see that expanded.
but you
But
see, that's what I am talking about. Not
yes,
necessarily waiting for someone to give you
yes,
an opportunity. Create your own opportunity.
absolutely.
For example, there are websites, I
Right.
won't give
Yep.
any, but that you can go on, sign up. You can do that right now. If you
Yeah.
have a computer at home, you have a tablet. If you have a talent, you can write. You can read, proofread uh, text or manuscripts. You
Mhm.
can draw. You're a graphic designer. You can go and sign up on these websites and get a gig
Yeah. So
to to work for someone.
yeah, I like
So
the way you think. So stop waiting for the government and see what you can do for yourself.
yeah, but again, all of these things begin with education
Mhm.
and not and well, information and education. This is where these things begin. If you tell people go to school, stay in school, get a job, and then they stay in school and they can't get a job, how is that encouraging? So you have to say, go to school, stay in school, but also here is a way that you can make your own job. Here are ways you can make your own job if you can't find a job or if you don't want to, work for someone else. Here's how you can create your own little space and use your talent or use the information, the knowledge that you have to provide for yourself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And, again, job creation, because now there are opportunities in, for example, cybersecurity, protecting companies from
Mhm.
hackers. You have these hackers, that shut down entire hospitals,
Yeah.
entire schools, and demand ransom before they can unlock your system. So how do
Mhm.
we protect against that? That is the area of cybersecurity. Those are the areas we have to encourage our young people and even our not so young people to get into in terms of careers, because that is how we take the opportunities out of what we're talking about. So again, we've had several programs on this, but let us stop telling our children that the only way to be successful is to become a lawyer, a teacher, a doctor, a police officer, a nurse. No, let us look at the environment and see, based on all this artificial intelligence and technology that is out there, where we should be directing our young people. So we talked about, let's also look at healthcare. AI is being tested and used in healthcare industry for suggesting drug dosages, identifying treatments, and for aiding in surgical procedures in the operating room. So I've watched programs where the robots are the ones performing the surgery and the surgeon is simply guiding the robots. So we have some more comments. Bernard Ito is here with us, and he says the biggest challenge will not be the technology first, but the social and technical management environment that we will have to create to enable it. It will take very savvy and experienced technical managers to make that happen, and wise and technically educated political leaders. So, yes, there will be need for buy in from our political leaders. Marshall says Africa must not be counted out. And this could be a call to mobilize around her, tighten our bonds, engage in commerce and trade, and look after our affairs despite advanced technology, which is inevitable. And I like that Marshall brought up um, Africa, because we are also seeing places like India, which is on track to be the most populous country of the world. And what they've done is they've lowered the price of cell phones and the price of data for the billions of people who are in India. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would they do such a thing? Because they want their population, with their massive human capability, their intellect, to be able to power up the intelligence, the artificial intelligence, provide more information to their website so that they're able to draw this information into applications such as ChatGPT. So the question we have to ask, Dominica, is where can we position ourselves to take advantage of these opportunities? We have provided concrete examples of how this can be applied. So where do we go from here? So as we get ready to wind down, Anthony and Sam, I want you to give us your final thoughts. And Rosie Felix says, all the professionals except those in sustainable businesses broke. Techni is the way to complement our traditional service areas. Thank you, Rosie. So, Anthony and Sam, again, I want to thank you for being here for Roots Connections on Q as we looked at the knowledge industries, the threats and the opportunities. And Anthony, I want to thank your This Week in Interview guests, audience, for joining us this evening. So, your final thoughts as we wind down the program.
Yeah, so in terms of opportunities, there was a time when Dominica had a technical college, and they taught agriculture, they taught building services, carpentry, mechanics, refrigeration, and so on. Now, with this new advent, we can do something similar to a technical college, except now we're looking to build skills in coding, we're looking to build skills in data management, we look at the various positions that in that industry and start to build education around that. And so that what will result a population that has that skills within.
Oh my!
Okay, so, someone must have interrupted him, but
yes, go ahead.
I know
he's back.
Okay,
he's gone. Okay, Sam, go.
All right, so
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So that is, we have to think about this new as what it was when what we needed were masons and carpenters and agriculturists. We still need all of those people, but we need technology to be the vehicle that carries it, right? And so we have to think of opening technical schools that's going to develop the skills in those areas. Now, you spoke about India. The thing is that as a people, as a Caribbean people, we have not been able to leverage our position right next door to the major economic power in the world. And we have a distinct advantage where most of us are English speaking. And so you in Dominica, we have an educated population that speaks English. We're within a stone's throw of the US. However, yeah, and Pakistan and the Philippines are able to have people who get employed in those industries, and you call and you hear the accent, and sometimes you have difficulty communicating with them. We in the Caribbean have a distinct advantage because we don't have that language barrier, and we've not been able to leverage that advantage. And so we have to start to think in that position. And our leaders, I know we say we shouldn't wait for government to do it, but the government has to create the enabling environment and has to be able to include it in the curriculum so that we end up with that. The last thing I want to say, Simone, is I want to say good evening to my fans and viewers of This Week in Interview. A lot of them participated. So now, you know, and also to your viewers who you gave me the opportunity to speak to them tonight. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for inviting me on to you and Q95, Lambi and Sherwin and the others. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for your audience for joining us as well. Sam?
Yes, of course. Anthony mentioned CDCC, the technical wing, but he didn't mention computer science as one of the things they taught. And I'm a product of that institution back in the day. So I want to agree with him that it would be great, wonderful if they would reintroduce technical education at the now Dominica State College. But someone mentioned Africa and AI. And so I think most of the African continent is suffering from some of the same things that we suffer from in Dominica. With the exception, for example, of Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Ethiopia, the application of AI it doesn't exist. And one of the reasons for that is they lack the data collection and privacy infrastructure, education, and governance needed to implement AI. I think we are in the same position at this point, and we have to find a way to bring those things into a reality, so we can now embrace AI as technology that we can use to improve the lives of our people and so on. And so let me just take a moment to say thank you, Simone, for inviting me on. It's not the first time you invited me on to something, and but
I'm happy you accepted.
it's yeah. So, but and of course, thank you to your audience, and thank you to the This Week in Interview audience for allowing Anthony and I to
give us a pat. Right?
oh, you call it make a shimekoshi tonight.
It was a very good shimekoshi, but thank you guys. Thank you for joining us as we talked about, artificial intelligence and the opportunities in the knowledge industries. We want to thank our Q95 listeners at home and abroad, Lambi on the console, Sherwin, DJ Shan, everyone who joined us on Facebook and YouTube Live, Teresa, Susanna Rowe, great to see you, Alvin. Great program, great information. Thank you, Simone. Great guest. Didi Esther, great program, very informative, insightful. Thanks, everyone. So, with the new applications of AI, they hold so much promise. But we have to educate ourselves on the world around us. And rather than simply dismissing artificial intelligence, technology, and the power of the internet, we must look for the opportunities to move our people and our country forward by embracing those opportunities, again, by creating the enabling environment so that resources such as artificial intelligence can thrive. I mentioned in the beginning, this was our 2nd year anniversary, and we are truly grateful to be here. And I think that this was the best program to celebrate our anniversary because it looked forward, it looked at the future, and it looked at what is going on right now. So again, we accomplished so much during the last years, and we want to thank you for that. Our most recent achievement is, having a new program which came out of a conversation that we started here on Roots Connections, and that is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to be able to showcase their work and to be able to reach international audiences. So you can expect that program coming up very soon. As a matter of fact, we have 2 brand new programs. I won't spill the beans, but you want to keep it locked to Q95 and Q95DA for so much more. Again, we're still working on opportunities in education. Don't forget, we have that seminar with the universities, June 5th. You want to mark your calendar to ensure that you take advantage of those opportunities. So we're really grateful for everything we've been able to do. As a matter of fact, Sam and I just completed a book because we have to continue to evolve. We have to continue to embrace change. So speaking of technology, Sam and I were able to collaborate and create a book of puzzles on Dominica, the culture, the history, and fun facts about Dominica, because we talk so much about our children spending too much time on their tablets and our children spending too much time on their cell phones. But what are we giving them as an alternative? So Sam and I came together, and it was great working with Sam because I'm telling you, that's the type of partner I like, that when we say we're going to do something, we stick to deadlines and we get it done. So you can expect to see more information. It will be coming out on Amazon soon. So you want to follow pushpast10.com, PUSHPAST10, or pushpast10 on Facebook and YouTube to get more information on when this book will come out. So it will be a fun way. It will be a book of puzzles where you will be able to answer questions on Dominica. You will be able to share the experience with your young ones, because if you're like me, we were born and immersed in the culture and the life of Dominica, but our children know nothing about Dominica. So this is going to be a great way to introduce your children to your country. You know, we'll have some easy questions, but we'll also have some challenging questions where you will need to look up the information. So again, I want to thank Sam, I want to thank Anthony, and I want to thank you, the audience, for the encouragement to keep going as we continue to work on ways to advance our country and to advance our people. So again, thank you for being here for another episode of Roots Connections on Q. I am Simone Mathieu, and for all the information you need on what we are working on and the important collaborations and networks and tools that we are creating to advance our people, you can log on again to pushpast10.com. And with that, we say good evening to you, Lambi, Sam, Anthony, the audience. Thank you for being here, and we will see you again on May 24th. Don't forget, we will have the folks who are involved in the cocoa processing using scientific approaches in Dominica. So again, thank you for being here. And with that, we say good evening, Anthea, Scotland. Great to see you. Good evening, my first time. And I was late. Well, Anthea, don't forget, you can catch the replay of this program. So guys, thank you.
Thank you. Good night. And happy Mother's Day to the mothers in the audience, especially my mom.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Oh, never mind. I was just saying happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the audience. Those who will watch this later, happy Mother's Day to you. And especially my mom, who is made sure she let me know that she's watching, and the family. So good night to you all out there in Grandpa. I hope you guys having a great time.
Yes, happy Mother's Day as well, Simone. And if I may, Friday is International Nurses Day. So I want to wish them a happy day as well on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. So again, we must continue the important conversations. We must continue, demanding change in Dominica when we see things are going wrong. But the third part of the equation is we must work on those action plans, on investing in me, investing in us, so we can move our people and our country forward. So with that, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and have yourself a pleasant night's rest. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Larry.
Good night.
All right. Ciao.
Take care.
Yeah.
Children home, wanna go home. Oh, yes, children home, got to go. Yeah, we've been trotting from Tennessee right on through Revelation. We've been a subject to master's feet, so we wanna go. Yeah, we are a people enslaved and sold, scattered through the earth. Jacob is calling his children 12 tribes, so we wanna go. Oh, children home, oh, to Zion, oh, wanna go, take me home, oh, to Zion, oh, wanna go, yeah, we've been trodden from Genesis right on to Revelation. We've been a subject to master's feet, so we wanna go. Oh, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, and Zebulun, Isaac, God and Asher, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. 12 tribes, so we want go home. Oh, children, home.